Hey everyone, welcome to the Star Wars Rebels After Show here on AfterBuzz TV, Season 3, Episode 7, 8, or 6, depending on how you're counting them. Nobody knows. It is entitled The Iron Squadron. We'll be breaking down the episode and talking about some of our thoughts and predictions for the future in just a moment.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I love that. Was a good transition, Megan.
You guys can't see it, but we always do a little dance party.
we jam out to the AfterBuzz sort of dubsteppy club music that happens while all the logos and things are flashing in front of your eyes. But then, of course, when we actually start talking here, we have epic, beautiful Star Wars music, which does not fit
sweeping
string. This kind of
no, not the pumping motions.
Yeah, you can tell, guys, that I go to the club often. Never. I don't. That's not my jam at all. Anyway, welcome, guys, to the Star Wars Rebels After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. It's a great time,
It is.
We love getting together and talking about Star Wars.
Show.
Yeah, this is I know, we were off last week, and it feels very great to be back, I have to say.
It feels like it's been a billion years.
I know. If you guys have not already done so, go over to iTunes, subscribe, leave us a review. We love to hear from you over there. It also makes us look really good. And if you are listening on iTunes, remember you can also watch us on YouTube, which is a great time. You can see what we look like instead of just hearing our voices.
And usually see the lovely outfits that
I frequently have fancy Star Wars outfits on, so you should totally watch on YouTube. Also, you can watch live on YouTube at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays. And we're streaming live right now. We got a bunch of people in the live chat. So thank you so much to everyone who is joining us right now. You can also tweet at us during the show or during the week using the hashtag ABTVRebels, which is one of the best hashtags ever invented, to let us know what you think. Ask us questions, whatever you want to do. Allow me to introduce my panel. Katie, as some people in the chat are pointing out, is absent. She has already gone on her merry way home on a mission to Colorado to celebrate
She has to defend her homeworld.
She does, exactly. She's just doing what the Iron Squadron would do. She heard her homeworld was in danger. She pieced out.
I have to go. My planet needs me.
Exactly, and she's there defending her home right now, very stubbornly, not leaving, even though death is probably imminent. So that's where Katie is this week. But if you want to follow her, she's at Kiaxet, Kiaxet. But we have the lovely Megan Salinas with us tonight.
Hey guys, you can tweet at me at the Penguin. That's TheManGuin, and I apologize.
Okay?
I'm a little under the weather, so I'm sorry if I sound funny at any given point.
I thought you were just gonna have a sneezing fit right then and there, or
I'm trying not
you were
to.
Getting really emotional about your Twitter handle.
I'm the Penguin, guys. It's just part of who I am.
And I'm Emma Fyffe. I can be found all over the internet wherever Emma Fyffes are sold at my name, Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE. That is all F's as in Frank, no S's as in snake. They tend to sound the same on the phone or when you record them into a microphone and then transmit them into somebody's ears. So this episode, The Iron Squadron, what'd you think, Megan? Break it. Also, earlier, I would like to point out that I was we have the lovely Megan Salinas with us. I don't know who we is. It's just the royal we.
The collective we here at the studio.
Yes, exactly.
We here at the AfterBuzz family.
Yeah, I think it was totally justified. So, Megan, you individually, though, as a person, what did you think of this episode?
As a person, I was so surprised that this ended as happily as it did.
Agreed.
I thought this was gonna go down in flames real hard, real quick, and it didn't. And I was like, oh, wow. That could have been terrible.
Yeah.
Good for them. I'm sure they're saving that for later, but good for them for making it out alive.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason for me that I had any hope that this episode was not gonna end very tragically was the fact that Thrawn had sent Admiral Constantine to be
he purposely, because we were theorizing last time that he sent out Constantine to die. But looking at it now, it's no, he sent him out to purposely fail.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's worse.
Yeah. Well, and so because I felt like Thrawn had it out for Constantine in one way or another, that was the only reason why I was okay, we still may get out of this in a semi-okay place.
In a semi-okay capacity, because this guy, he's not exactly known for his successes.
No, not exactly. So basically, this episode revolves around the rebels, the Phoenix Squadron, going to Mykapo, which is Commander Jun Sato's home planet. And the story with Mykapo, first of all, I found this very interesting. Mykapo is actually named after Mickey Capoferri, who is a producer of Rebels Recon, which is kind of the official Rebels after show companion
where
piece.
they do like a little behind the scenes thing
exactly.
where they interview the cast.
And as well as the Star Wars show. So Mykapo was kind of a little play on his name, which is neat.
Nice.
But Mykapo, basically the story there is, like I said, it was Jun Sato's home planet, and as time was going, like basically as the Empire began to be at large, they kind of started like busing sympathizers off planet. And so eventually it was kind of just left down to the few people who were still like taking a stand for
this is our home.
Exactly. And at that point, like, Sato's off, like, you know, being a commander in the rebellion. But his brother was one of the last people to kind of take a stand, and he was the leader of the Iron Squadron originally. So basically, you know, they're sort of nearing Mykapo, and they're like, well, this is not going to be a good time. Like, this is what went down on Mykapo. It's a hairy situation, and they basically discover this ship like flying around by Mykapo, and the ship is actually Sato's hammer, which was Sato's ship before he like became the Phoenix Squadron commander.
There's a lot of backstory.
There
to this
is.
episode.
I know. Yeah, I went on a little databank binge. It was a good time.
That's one of the things that makes Star Wars so good.
Yeah. If you guys have never, I'm sure everyone watching this show has, but if you've never like looked at the official Star Wars databank, it is so fun. You can spend many hours because it's the thing where it's like you'll click on a person and then it'll be like, here are related articles, like 6 other people and 10 vehicles and 11 planets that you might also be interested in.
It's kind of like when you go to TV tropes for the first time.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, oh, I've heard of that one. And then the next thing you know, it's 3 hours later, and you're like, oh, where did that time go?
Yeah. Yep. That's basically what happened to me a little bit today on the databank. And then also, you know, once you find stuff on the databank, you kind of dig into Wikipedia, which is like not totally official, but you know, those wiki sites are really well monitored. So yeah. But anyway, so the Iron Squadron is like, well, we don't know they're the Iron Squadron at this point, but they're like chilling around Mykapo, and the rebels notice them, the crew of the Ghost does, and they're like, why are they not jumping to warp speed? They're under attack. Why aren't they getting out of here? What's the deal?
That's not good.
No, exactly. And so then they basically come to find out that it's this group of teenagers.
Literally, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And they identify themselves as the Iron Squadron, which is the point that we learn from Jun Sato that was his brother's like force. They were the last ones to kind of take a stand for Mykapo.
Yeah, and I really like the setup for this. You know, because first of all, we don't get nearly very much development for Commander Sato up until this point. So the fact that we're digging into his family history a little bit. The fact that he has a nephew who he didn't know was still alive is just like, oh, I have family. I have a responsibility to get back there and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. We had somebody on the hashtag, hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. Say, Oscar Herrera, hey, hashtag come back here. I was just looking at you. Oscar Herrera wrote, there's implied history between Sato and Thrawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, see this explained in Rebels or Thrawn novels? So.
See, for me, I feel like I would like to see that explored probably. I think it's something that in Rebels, we will see a little bit of, but I would love if that was something that was very heavily explored in the Thrawn novel, because I mean that's one of the things that's kind of great about the additional Star Wars material, about things like the Kanan comics and Ahsoka, and you know, for anybody who's excited about Rogue One, which is everybody's Star Wars
Literally
catalyst,
everyone.
which I have not had a chance to read yet, but I fully intend to read sometime this weekend, and I have heard nothing but rave reviews about. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's kind of the nice thing about having that sort of supplementary material, is that it's like, okay, this is a really good opportunity to explore some of that backstory.
Exactly.
Because the thing is that it's like, all you need is a little bit of backstory, and they do such a good job with, you know, the animation, and the voice actors do such a great job that you're like, oh yeah, there's definitely some beef between these guys. We're going to probably get a little bit about it in Rebels, but I bet I would not be surprised if we got the full story in the Thrawn novels. I mean, it was something that, you know, we touched on a little bit last time with like Gar Saxon. Like, he was supposed to be in Clone Wars. They never quite made it that far. And so then they introduced him in the Darth Maul comics.
Yes.
So, you know, you get an opportunity to explore some of these characters who, the thing is, there's so many characters in Star Wars, and now in Star Wars canon specifically, and you know, just even looking at Rebels, there's a ton of sort of outlying characters who are all very interesting. But if we spent like episodes developing these characters, then you kind of take away from your streamlined main story. So you kind of have to just pick a handful of characters that you're like, okay, these are our main characters. We're going to really get their backstory, their motivation, et cetera, et cetera. But then you do have opportunities outside of the actual series to really explore these characters.
Which is really great when they throw in a lot of subtext in there, and Thrawn and Sato like have that really brief exchange of like, oh, we meet again. It's been a long time. And you're like, there's a lot going on there. Let me go and dig for it.
In the chat, everyone is commenting. First of all, Ivan, thank you so much for your compliment on my hair in the premiere. When I did it purple to look like Sabine, that was a great time. That was hair chalk. Hair chalk is magical, especially when you have platinum blonde hair. Everyone agrees, Megan Rickards agrees with me that she thinks that with both of us actually, that the Thrawn novel is probably where we'll really explore that history between Sato and Thrawn.
Is it out already, or
No, it's not. No, I think it comes out in December. Or early next year. I think it's early next year. I gotta look on Amazon. Someone in the chat, tell me. And then Ryan, you're right. I couldn't escape Christian Harloff raving about Catalyst. I've been hearing about it for weeks, and I just really want to read it. But anyway,
shut up and take my money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm jazzed about Rogue One. The Rogue One is at the same point for me right now, not to get too off topic, that Force Awakens was last year, where I'm like, I don't want to see any more trailers. I don't want any more stuff. I just want to see the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, we waited a year. Just let us see it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But to kind of get back to this episode,
right.
And like again, I really like the idea of developing Sato and his family and the backstory. And again, this is it's a tragic backstory immediately when we hear about the Iron Squadron.
Right.
And the way that they take down the Imperial ship at the beginning, it's like that was a suicidal move made by people who have no resources at their disposal.
Yeah.
And so when we get introduced to them, and they're so insistent that they don't need any help. No, we like the warp droid this way. No, R3 makes the repairs, like, for this thing that clearly doesn't work.
Right.
And, like, it's sparking and steam is flying everywhere. It's like, okay, I was immediately going, okay, what's motivating these guys to keep their ship this way? Is it just that they don't have the resources for it? Or are they purposely, like, is this like a purposely self-sabotaging mission that they're on? Like, they don't care about the state of their ship because they ultimately don't care what happens to themselves.
Megan Rickards came through. April 11th next year is when the Thrawn novel comes out. It's too long. That's after my birthday, guys. It's unacceptable. But yeah, so according again to the Star Wars databank, this episode was heavily inspired by the 1984 classic Red Dawn. I don't know if you've ever seen Red Dawn, but basically,
Wolverines!
yeah, the plot of it is that it's like an alternate 1980s where everything is terrible, and there's a bunch of teenagers like stubbornly defending their hometown. So that was kind of the idea with this episode of
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we got this collection of teenagers who are stubbornly defending their home planet, even though, like, it's really hopeless. There's nobody there as far as we know.
Yeah, I mean, this is even worse than, like, because, like, people defending, like, and you see this popping up in the galaxy a lot,
Yeah.
with people, like, stubbornly defending their home, especially with, like, Chom Syndulla and, like, that whole situation. But, like, these kids, they literally have no idea what they're doing, and like that naivete is kind of, it really they keep hammering it in every time this, their captain is like, oh, a Star Destroyer, I totally took it out. It's like, that's not a Star Destroyer.
Oh,
that's
I
not
know.
That's not even remotely what one looks like.
Yeah, that was the thing, was I think that it wasn't self-sabotage. I don't think it was self-sabotaging. Like, now specifically that you mentioned that and their reaction to, like, yeah, we're finally taking on a Star Destroyer. Nope, that is a light cruiser, guys. Star Destroyers are, what did she say? Like, six times that size. Yeah. As they learn at the end of the episode. But I really do think with the Iron Squadron, it was that they were living in this little bubble of, everyone that the Empire really cares about has been evacuated from this area. The only reason there's any interest in this area is because Thrawn is baiting them.
Yeah.
So, like, these kids are living in this bubble of, like, they're the last ones standing, and they haven't really seen what's going on out there. So they legitimately, I do think that they are capable of making a stand on their own.
I mean, and there's a lot of a parallel with, Ezra's storyline, and we've seen him grow up quite a bit, over the past three seasons.
Sure.
But yeah, certainly when we picked him up from Lothal, like, he was very headstrong. Like, yeah, we can totally take down the Empire once, like, he was a part of a family and everything like that. But like, yeah, we hadn't ever left Lothal.
Right.
Once we leave Lothal, it's like, no, there's a much bigger world out there.
Yes.
And these kids have never left. Like, this is their world.
Exactly. And I think that was something that, like, Ezra and I think Ezra kind of recognized that a little bit in Mark Madigan, because, like, even when the kids are all separating, Ezra kind of, like, lets him have his way a little bit, because I think that he sort of recognizes a little bit of himself in that character, because, as you say, Megan, it's like he also was living in this world where, and I mean, even throughout the whole first season of Rebels, it's kind of like the Ghost was sort of their own entity.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, this conflict is real serious, and there's a much bigger picture than you are alone. And I think that Mark Madigan did, realize that as the episode continued. Like, even when he said, take off with my friends, like, you got to get my friends to safety. Like, I sort of wonder, like, did he? I don't think he really knew he was being used as bait, but he certainly understood the possibility of self-sacrifice.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is because he's so young, and because there's no authority figure for any of these kids. I think we can safely assume that they're all orphans at this point. Like, I think because there's no guiding hand for them, like, he's under the impression that this is like one of those adventure stories you hear about.
Exactly.
The fairy tales, the epics of, like, I'm gonna go on this quest and I'm gonna take down the Empire.
I totally agree.
I'm the shonen protagonist.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
No one can touch me. If I die, I'll get revived by Dragon Ball, so it'll be fine.
It'll be okay.
I mean, I totally feel the same way, and it's like kind of the more, like, because when I first watched this episode, I was like, why are these kids so dumb? Why are they so stupid? Why don't they just leave? There's no reason for them to stay. And I think, it kind of, they sort of framed it in such a way by ultimately putting Ezra and Sabine at the head of this mission to get these kids out. Like, that was a very smart move.
Exactly. Because they're kids that they've been through hell and they know what they're doing. And they know how to follow orders too at this point when it's time to get out of Dodge, that sort of thing. Again, with no authority figure for these kids, they can create this narrative about being noble, epic heroes.
Yes.
You know, like this, that the problem is that this kid thinks he's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
He's not Luke Skywalker.
He's not Luke Skywalker, but he is very Luke Skywalker at the beginning. Like, even though he's gone through, honestly, Luke doesn't know all the tragedy he's gone through at that point in his life.
Not yet, no.
But he is very like Luke Skywalker on Tatooine at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah, he loses his parents, parents, quote unquote.
Yeah, quote unquote.
And even when Hera first shows up, you know, the part of the larger rebellion, they probably just see that as like, oh, my uncle sent you to get me. He thinks of it as like, this is like a group of babysitters who are coming to tell them, what you're doing is too dangerous.
Yeah. I did love that that droid fight, the astromech droid fight between R3 and Chopper. So good.
Oh, Chopper the murder bot. Like, I was a little concerned for R3 for a little bit.
Me too. But I also loved that, like, Ezra came in and he's like, what's wrong with your hyperdrive? It's not working. Chopper can fix it. Like, Chopper's like clearly the key to all success and life. As I say, I still think Chopper is going to be the one to defeat Thrawn because he cannot be emotionally manipulated, though he is kind of emotional for a little droid.
He's very emotional. He hates being insulted. Like,
That's true.
He's very cranky, but again, he's also the most efficient murderer this team has to offer.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about good old Admiral Constantine.
I feel... I was going to say I feel kind of bad for this guy, but the truth is that I don't at this particular moment. He gets thrown out here. What I do feel bad about is, like, if this is the way Thrawn is treating, you know, the members of his team, like the Imperial commanders or whatever, I'm like, how long until he throws Callus out there to do the exact same thing?
I mean,
and I'm not okay on that one.
I'm still with you that I think that when Thrawn decides to try to play Callus as a pawn, I really think he's gonna clue into it, probably die a tragic death in the same episode, but he's gonna die a semi-heroic figure, I think.
And it's gonna make me so sad.
Not to get too much into predictions territory,
I'm
but
gonna miss his sideburns.
But Constantine, I did think that he was being sent out to die, essentially.
I thought so too.
You know?
I totally thought that this was gonna be the end of Constantine here and now. And that's why I was so surprised when he didn't die. And it was funny, I gotta say, like, that interaction between him and Thrawn at the very end there. Maybe, you know what? Maybe he wasn't being sent out to die. Maybe, again, you know...
I now don't think he was being sent out to die, having seen the episode.
Again, maybe... I'm sure that this is all part of Thrawn's bigger chess board, because, again, he was like, I was wondering what would lure Sato out. Now I know.
Yeah.
But as far as Constantine goes, I'm looking at it, I was like, maybe this wasn't an act of cruelty on Thrawn's part. Maybe this was like, here... I'm going to give you a simple thing to do. And if you can do this simple thing, maybe I won't use you as a pawn later.
Right.
When he fails at that simple thing, it's like, nope, I'm going to send you right into it next time.
And I mean, Constantine, in his own way, was being used as bait just as much as the kids were, as much as, more specifically, Mart was, because, you know, the idea was, as we know, Thrawn and Commander Sato clearly have some sort of history, so he was just targeting his home planet, where I'm sure, because he's Thrawn, he knew his nephew still was, and so, you know, that's the only reason they even paid attention to that planet, was to try to draw out more of the rebel squadron.
Exactly.
You know, Thrawn's, he knows
what's going on.
He knows what's going on. He's in charge of all the pieces. So yeah, I mean, so ultimately, like, he sent Constantine out to basically be like bait in terms of the Empire to be like, oh, well, here he is, to then just sort of lurk in the shadows, because at the end, he comes out with the Star Destroyer and they've got a fleet of TIE fighters, because he initially sends Constantine out being like, yeah, we're just going to send you in one light cruiser. You can handle it.
That's fine, right? You're good, right?
And he's like, if you're not, like, I can totally send somebody else.
Just let me know. Yeah.
Yes.
If you're not comfortable with this.
Right. And so, of course, Constantine's like, oh, no, I totally got this.
That's also the worst feeling, like, at work.
Yeah.
Somebody giving you something you clearly don't want to do, and they're like, oh, if you're not comfortable with it, like, we'll get some... And you're just like, ugh, that puts me in such an impossible spot.
Yep.
You're like, well, I guess I'm doing it then.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. I'm like, why I initially, like, my knee-jerk reaction is to say I feel bad for Constantine, but I don't. But, like, just the idea of, like, being used and manipulated like that without knowing it, or even kind of being semi-aware, but you're unable to do anything about it anyway. It's like, ooh, that's rough, buddy.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Timberwolf 410 in the chat points out something very interesting. Did anyone else notice that Fulcrum gave the Ghost intel in the beginning of the episode? It was Fulcrum who told them, hey, you gotta go to Mykapo.
That's true.
And there is a fan theory, which I am a big fan of personally, that the new Fulcrum, because obviously previously Fulcrum was Ahsoka.
Yeah, and there are multiple Fulcrums. They made that clear
so
earlier in the season.
the theory that's running rampant right now is that the new Fulcrum is in fact Agent Kallus. Which totally makes sense because he's inside the Empire and would know that, because there was nothing for them on Mykapo. Like, they weren't going to get supplies or anything. So, the person that was telling them, hey, this is the direction you should go, is someone who knew or likely knew that the Empire had this plan.
Listeners on iTunes, you can't see me at the moment, but I am beaming. I love that theory.
Yeah.
That would make me so incredibly happy. Although it could just as easily backfire. Like, he could be
totally.
a double agent either way.
That's what I was thinking, too. Yeah, he could absolutely be a double agent either way.
For the Empire, or he could defect and become a rebel.
Right.
But either way, I'm like, ooh, I like this. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a very fun theory that I think would be great. And certainly makes sense.
And it would also be giving him something to do while... Like, as a character, he's a little bit more in the background this season.
Right.
Because everybody's, like, Thrawn and Governor Pryce. Which, again, which is great. I'm really glad we have these characters, and not to mention Darth Maul's still running around and everything like that.
Oh, jeez,
so it gives something for our season 1 villain to still have something to do and still get developed. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a good time. And in sort of following up on that, Timberwolf also says that Thrawn's plans are never clear, so Kallus may literally have not known that it was a trap. All he probably knew was, he might have not even known that Thrawn gave the order, but it was like all he knew is Constantine is heading out to Mykapo, so,
Oh, gosh. Even worse if, like, Thrawn is as smart as we all know that he is.
We all absolutely know that he is.
He might already
smart.
know that, like, if Agent Kallus is, like, defecting and providing information, he might just be like, dance, puppets, dance.
Yep.
Oh, this is why it's so rough when you have a character that's smart.
I know.
You're a bad guy.
I know. Yeah, he is just a fascinating bad guy. And that scene in the end between he and Admiral Constantine, when Admiral Constantine's like, yes, we found them, and I can't remember exactly what his excuse was.
Thrawn was like, oh, you called for assistance.
Right.
Like, I'm even giving you that out right now. And he's like, no, I actually called to say that the rebels have been driven out.
That's right. Yes, that we drove the rebels out of Mykapo. That's what we were here to do. And
you mean the rebels that just escaped?
Right, exactly.
Is what you're saying. I for sure when the cargo hit Constantine, I thought for sure he was dead. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's the end.
Right? Yeah, because that's how the children of the Iron Squadron attack, as they hurl cargo at people.
Take that!
Surprisingly effective.
I mean, and again, you have to hand it to them for being as effective as they were for how little resources they had.
Yeah.
But it's literally just kind of like a group of kids throwing a tantrum.
Yeah.
And then in that tantrum, you get hit in the face. Yeah. And you're just like, that doesn't make the tantrum effective. No. It just means you got hit in the face.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see how it played out because obviously, they were targeting Mykapo and specifically Mark Matten because of the connections to Commander Sato. So the idea was to draw out more of the Rebel squadron, which they did.
Yeah.
Because, Commander Sato did show up in the Liberator, which is that really cool looking ship that he drives. A lot of people also pointed out in the chat the sort of similarities between Sato's hammer and the Millennium Falcon. They do look kind of similar.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
And it also looks very similar because the Millennium Falcon, even though it's the fastest ship ever, is supposed to be a hunk of junk.
Yeah, no, it looks like it came off a junk pile for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, because they draw out more of the rebels, so it's like you get reinforcements on the side of the Empire as well as on the side of the rebels, so you do kind of end up with a bit of a skirmish, but the rebels ultimately, get in and they rescue Mart, which is their only real target, and then they escape.
Yeah, and again, Thrawn now knows, okay, I know what I need. I know which piece to move if I need to get Sato to a particular place on the board.
Yeah.
I know this now. Thanks for that, everyone. And it's so interesting, too, just to see where he's kind of orchestrating these various skirmishes. And it's like, okay, is he just getting this to, get a proper gauge on what our characters are going to do in various situations, because we know he's playing a larger game, but it's are some of these little skirmishes actually is there an ulterior agenda, and all of these little skirmishes which we walk away taking as victories, yay, we saved the kid. It's like, is it really though? Is it really a victory in this particular regard?
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, the rebels escape.
Yeah, nobody on that team died.
No,
that's good. That's definitely a plus.
That is definitely a plus.
That's a good day.
I don't think things are going to go well for Admiral Constantine from here. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, also a good time.
Yep.
Also a good time for us.
Yep. But yeah, I don't, in a way, nobody won except maybe Thrawn a little bit.
Yeah, and I think he's just literally throwing out these data points.
Yeah.
And collecting information, and that's all he's doing right now. And that's real unsettling because as he's collecting information, it's life or death stakes. Again, small skirmishes, but it's still life and death stakes for our characters.
Right.
Who don't even know they're playing into his hand yet.
Yeah. Yeah. He's certainly a very interesting antagonist, and everyone in the chat is like, when are we gonna know Thrawn's plan for real? And
season finale.
Yeah, season finale, probably. Yep.
Unless they decide to do the mid-season thing where it's this is what I've been planning all along.
Yeah, or unless they do, I feel like if they wrap up Thrawn's storyline this season, then it'll probably be the last 4, maybe only 3, possibly up to 5 episodes are kind of one big story arc of really coming to a head with Thrawn. But I feel like there's still so many players. I don't know how you wrap up Thrawn's storyline in one season.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, do you really think he's going anywhere at the end of this season?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You can't canonically bring in a character like him without that having and if they were to kill him off or just sort of send him away, I feel like that would make a lot of fans really either confused or upset.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah, no, definitely. Timberwolf 410 in the chat agrees. I think that in regards to the end of this battle, I don't think it's a victory for anyone really except for Thrawn.
Yeah.
But he's letting the rebels kind of bask in the illusion of having won while, quietly berating Constantine for his failure.
I gotta say, I love the way Thrawn just takes people down a few pegs. because again, he doesn't get angry. The only time he's ever gotten angry is when like somebody insulted art, and then he was super upset. But so I really like the way he very calmly I'm just gonna knock you down a couple pegs. I don't even have to do anything. It's fine.
Yeah, that is 100% how he operates. And then in the chat, PW Gregory asks, do you think they could beat the Empire? I think that he is talking about the Ghost Crew, because people are kind of saying, oh, the Ghost Crew, they're kind of like the crew on the Millennium Falcon, and that they're kind of the formidable scrappy rebels against the Empire.
Not to like fall back on the doomed prequelitis thing, assuming everybody in this series makes it out of this series like alive into A New Hope and everything like that, I could totally see them being an effective force in the rebellion for the entirety of the war. And it's just one of those things where it'd be very interesting to see how the infrastructure of the Empire, after the Emperor is killed, eventually becomes the First Order. It's like, did that happen overnight? Did that happen right away? Is it like a slowly but surely thing?
Right.
Was there a period at like any given point during the interim of Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens where there was peace? Like even just for a little bit?
I don't know. I really don't. I feel like there must have been a time where it was like relatively peaceful and we were like training all these Jedi at the Jedi Temple and things were going to be great again. And then it kind of all started to fall apart once the Force was imbalanced again, which by definition it was at the end of Return of the Jedi, because there weren't really any
people
Sith.
went away.
Yeah. So it had to
ebb and flow
again.
In some way.
Yeah, it's like endless, I agree with you that like the more I watch this and the more I think about it, the more I feel like, okay, it might end up okay. I just don't see how it ends up okay for Ezra and Kanan, because they're Jedi, and at the beginning of New Hope, it's like a big deal that there aren't really any Jedi. And it would be one thing if they were not actively involved in the rebellion that's leading us up to where we are at the beginning of New Hope.
Yeah.
And they've already interacted with many of the major characters, including the major villain from the original 3 movies. So I feel like,
Yeah, they're either going to end up dead or they're going to do the cowboy thing where they just kind of walk off into the sunset morally ambiguously.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. So I think that's a good transition into like really diving into some predictions.
I like it.
Good transition.
Killer transition.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So that was sort of grandiose predictions.
Immediate predictions.
Immediate predictions, yeah.
I feel like we're getting the Italian job.
Well, we know Hondo Ohnaka's coming back in the next episode.
There are a few clips on YouTube that the Star Wars channel has released, and I feel like again, anytime we're with Hondo, it's gonna be a fun time. I definitely feel like it's definitely gonna be here's our plan for a heist. I don't know what they plan on stealing or who from.
I mean, the episode title is The Winkathu Job. So,
Italian
as you
job.
say, the Italian job. Kind of like the Thanksgiving episode of Bob's Burgers was called The Turk-Deucers. It was the producers, but about turkey. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, I'm excited for Hondo to come back. It's always
he's always so entertaining.
It's a circus, sometimes literally, when Hondo Ohnaka's
exactly.
around.
He's just that charming, awful pirate that you enjoy, but you're also like, this is bad for me. I know it's bad for me, but you're a card. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel like the next episode, because this was the thing, was going into this episode with the whole Iron Squadron thing, I was like, well, this feels a little like this might kind of just be a fun distraction episode, but then it was so important and so important for the development of Jun Sato as a character. I care about him so much more now.
Well, what could have been a one-off filler episode was heavily character development, and again, very, very clearly indicating a lot of setup for Thrawn's master plan. And like, even though we didn't talk about them a ton, I mean, I did like these kids. I did. Like, especially the girl with her cool haircut.
Oh yeah, Gooby.
Yeah, I loved her. She was great.
Yeah, she was neat.
But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think in terms of the next episode, it could be like, it definitely has the potential of being like, oh, we're just having fun. It's a heist. It's gonna have a good time and shenanigans ensue. I definitely feel like it's gonna be whatever it is they're trying to steal. It's gonna be important.
Yeah, I feel like too. Like exactly that it's gonna be important. It's gonna be one of those things where we get sort of the like bait and switch where again it starts off like, oh, this is a fun Hondo Onaka
Time for a fun romp.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like in this one, it's like, oh cool, we're gonna get like this fun story about these other rebel
Wolverines.
kids. Yeah. And then
they're gonna throw plot at us.
Yeah. I think that is incredibly likely. So that's what I think I got for predictions. I'm looking to see if we have any new iTunes reviews.
Ooh.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, let's see. When was our last show?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
I can pull up the calendar to check.
Right, so I think November 11th would have been after that then.
November 8th.
November 8th. Perfect. Great. So we have 2 new reviews, both 5 stars.
Thank you.
Loving this show by TV Game Junkie. Love all your passion for Star Wars. Keep up the good work. And then we have Great Crew by AlexG_83. I've been binging on Rebels for the past few weeks to get caught up. Your show is part of my binging since I don't know many people to talk about Star Wars with. Here's hoping to hear my shout out in the next couple of weeks. Keep up the awesome work. Well, there's your shout out.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks guys. We like when you say nice things about us. And yeah, if you leave us a review, we will give you a shout out on the show. We always appreciate getting the feedback, and it lets our producers know that you want us to keep talking about Star Wars Rebels, because we want to keep talking about Star Wars Rebels.
Absolutely.
And it makes us look good. So sometimes we get guests in. It's like, we haven't this season because the thing is like everyone's schedules are crazy right now.
It's super crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, we've had a lot of interest in people wanting to come on the show, but it's just a matter of scheduling. But it will happen. I am very confident.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about a little bit of news and gossip on the Star Wars front from the last week.
I love hearing about news and gossip.
Me too. I love when we get like a news sting too, but maybe we're not gonna.
That's okay.
It's fine.
Hold on. AfterBuzz TV news.
Guys, casting news for the young Han Solo film. Emilia Clarke is gonna be in it.
Ooh.
So for anybody who doesn't know who Emilia Clarke is, there it is.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Do you watch Game of Thrones? Because she is Daenerys Targaryen.
Mother of dragons, guys.
I am very excited to see her in this film, which already has a stellar cast. I was so excited about Donald Glover being cast as young Lando Calrissian. That is brilliant casting.
It really is.
But yeah, Emilia Clarke. Don't know who she's going to be. No. She's going to round out a diverse and interesting new crew of people. A lot of people, when the news first broke last week, I was actually over at Collider when we got the update on it, and immediately people started tweeting like, "Oh, do you guys think she could be Leia?" I don't think so. I don't think Han and Leia ever encountered each other before they met.
Well, also, there's an age difference between Han and Leia, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And
she's a bit younger than than he is.
Exactly.
And Emilia Clarke is about of an age with the rest of the main cast of the film.
No, if she's not a love interest, then she's definitely going to be somebody who can, put him through his paces. And I'd actually be okay if they didn't have like a love interest because he's such a scoundrel and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like there might be
we
some...
ultimately know he ends up with Leia.
Exactly, guys. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that. And then also, apparently, according to Collider.com, Rogue One is going to be the first Star Wars movie without the classic opening crawl.
What?
I know. Are we just going to get like a cold open and they drop us? Seriously.
I guess it's because it's a side story and not an episode.
That's true.
But yeah, I actually heard there's a statement from Kathleen Kennedy about this.
Thank you. Do you have
Thank
it?
you, Zach.
I don't have it. It was actually a little while ago, but what she said is that she wants it to stand apart from the main like trilogies, which all have the crawls, and this is like the most basic way that they can say like this is different. This is not part of episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
I
8,
guess
9.
that makes sense because the episodes are very much the family dynasty story.
They
you know?
are, yeah. And
I guess something that doesn't fall into that category
Well, and it's
doesn't
interesting
need it.
because I feel like Clone Wars and Rebels are kind of in the same category as Rogue One,
And
where
they don't get a title crawl every single time.
Yeah, they don't get a title crawl every episode. They did get title crawls at the very beginning. But
I don't remember if
I'm pretty sure.
Rebels did.
I feel like Rebels did in Spark of Rebellion, the very first.
I don't recall.
TV thing.
Someone please let us know.
It's been a long time since I've watched it.
It's been quite a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though I was rewatching it not too long ago, I have a lot of TV shows in my brain. Yeah. So it's. I mean, that totally makes sense to me, though, Zach. Thank you for.
Thank you for that. Yeah. No, much appreciated.
Yeah. And again, like I was saying, I feel that Clone Wars and Rebels kind of like fall into that like world. I think Zach found the opening episode and is proving to me
Confirmed,
that
Rebels did not
did
start
not.
with
Yeah.
with an
Okay.
opening
Cool.
crawl.
Yeah. So none of. I had a moment where I was like, did they? But yeah, they.
I don't know though. That looks like the season 2 opener because
Oh
it's
yeah,
got Darth
that's
Vader.
yeah, that looks like it's Siege of the Fall. Anyway, it's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, again, like Rebels and Clone Wars, I feel like people that are fans of those are the ones that are definitely going to see Rogue One.
for sure, because they're the ones that care about the things outside of the main trilogies.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, in the chat somewhere back in the conversation, somebody did bring up the idea of what if maybe in subsequent seasons of Star Wars Rebels after Rogue One is out, do we think we might see some of the Rogue One characters
I would definitely be down for that.
In Rebels? And I think that is a definite possibility.
I would love it if, like, one of the many Fulcrums turned out to be some of the people that end up going on this mission to retrieve the Death Star plans.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would really like it if the cast of Rogue One doesn't end up dead by the end of Rogue One. I would be super jazzed about that.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be a lot of fun and definitely not out of the realm of possibility because, you know, if you look at Clone Wars, it focuses on a lot of the characters from the prequels. And then in, you know, the current Rebels, we are seeing characters from the original trilogy.
It's great from both. Yeah,
Exactly.
We get Leia, we get Lando, we've gotten again Ahsoka. You know, we get characters both from both worlds.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where they would never put a lot of focus, they would never carry over a character from the animated shows into the trilogy with, you know, you needing to know everything about them from the animated series in order to enjoy their appearance. But the opposite happens quite a lot, where characters we've already seen on the screen do get translated over to on the big screen, get translated over to the animated small screen. So I do hope that after Rogue One, we do see some of the characters from the film in Rebels. Megan Rickards, I love your idea that Agent Kallus is the one who gives Jyn Erso the plans to the Death Star. That would be great.
That would be amazing.
Don't think that's gonna happen, but I love Agent Kallus, so I would be all
Let me
about
dream,
that.
guys. Let me dream.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our American listeners, viewers, whatnot. Hope you guys have a very happy holiday this weekend. I am looking forward to eating a lot of food, but we will be back next week talking about the Italian Job. It's not really an Italian job, but that's basically what it's going to be. Until then, Megan, where can people find you on the internet?
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @themenguin. That's TheMenguin. I am also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, and I write articles for the Movie Chick. That's Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out.
And I'm Emma Fyffe. I can be found all over the internet wherever Emma Fyffes are sold at my name, Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE. Again, all F's as in Fred, no S's as in Snake. I'm on a number of shows here at AfterBuzz TV. I also recently started doing post-game interviews for the Schmodown movie trivia over at Schmoes Know and Collider. So if you watch the team match today, of the as I say, the team match was happening today, you will totally see my face on there doing interviews after the match, as well as bringing out the wheel of categories in between rounds 1 and 2. So be sure to check that out. Guys, thank you so much to everybody who joined us live on YouTube, in the chat, in the hashtag. You guys are awesome. Remember, you can keep using that hashtag ABTVRebels to tweet any of your thoughts at us throughout the week, and we will talk about them on the next show. Again, happy Thanksgiving if you are in the U.S. If not, happy life on Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, happy Thursday. It's gonna be a great day either way, and we will be back again, same time, same place next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
May the Force be with you.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.